Starting off development as Dinosaur Planet on the Nintendo 64, Rareware was hard at work at trying to get this released on that platform before jumping into Nintendo's next console. However, throughout production, the game was opted to skip the N64 and instead take full advantage of the GameCube while making some changes. Nintendo and Rare changed Dinosaur Planet to now have Fox McCloud as the protagonist and take place within the Star Fox universe, and so Star Fox Adventures was born. Taking place after the events of Star Fox 64, this drastic departure from that formula has Fox McCloud in what is essentially a Zelda clone. So, is Star Fox Adventures a game that sends Rare off on a high note from Nintendo's partnership, or does it crash and burn, ready to be stranded? Let's find out. The game begins with Crystal hearing a distress call in the sky that leads to the Krazoa Palace, and on her way there, things don't go quite as planned. She engages in an aerial battle with General Scales, losing her staff in the process, and upon reaching the Krazoa Palace, gets taken back by a Krazoa spirit and trapped in a crystal. Oh, the irony. We then cut to the Star Fox crew getting a mission from General Pepper about Dinosaur Planet being in shambles, and Fox accepts the mission, trying to earn a bit more money for the crew that they could use. Upon landing on Dinosaur Planet, Fox is told he cannot use his blaster there and needs to find a different means of defense, hence Crystal's staff that fell in Thorntail Hollow. As he ventures through the planet, he will find and rescue Prince Tricky, and he will tag along with Fox to assist in trying to fix Dinosaur Planet by acquiring the Spellstones, while trying to rescue Crystal and put a stop to General Scales. The story is very well done with great characters and world building. Fox McCloud is characterized very well here, and Tricky proves to be a fun companion that never actually gets annoying, thankfully. While there is a plot twist in the end that was considered divisive amongst the community, I'm the camp that says the plot twist is awesome, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, we'll see you soon. We gotta take this Spellstone back to the planet.
Now, Star Fox Adventures ditches the vehicle-centric formula of the previous Star Fox games and rather focuses on being an adventure game that is very much akin to The Legend of Zelda, while having aspects of Star Fox infused in there, like segments where you pilot the R-Wing. And the game reminds you right away upon taking control of Fox that you will start by piloting the R-Wing to Dinosaur Planet. Upon landing, controlling Fox is a breeze with ultra-responsive controls. Some of the controls are highlighted on the top right of the HUD, similar to the Zelda titles of this era, like your context-sensitive A button, the B button, and mapping the Y button. Upon acquiring the staff, Fox can unsheath it with the A button and put it back with the B button. Additionally, Fox can roll forward with the X button, and it sometimes feels like you move slightly faster doing this movement action. There's no dedicated jump button, but Fox will automatically jump when running at the edge of a platform, while walking to the edge will have him grab the ledge before falling. When running into enemies, you'll engage in combat upon unsheathing your staff. The game's camera gets a bit more dramatic here, kinda similar to the Z locking in the Zelda games, but the combat is very easy to grasp. The A button is your main attack button, and Fox can pull off combos by just constantly pressing the button. However, holding the analog stick either forward or backward will initiate different combos for him to pull off. It's simple, but it looks cool and it does the job for sure. He can block attacks holding the R trigger and can evade by holding back on the analog stick and pressing the X button. There is some variety in the enemies, and it will require some different tactics to take them down, some requiring a more defensive approach, and others requiring the staff's magic abilities. Speaking of magic abilities, Fox will find underground locations that contain a new ability for the staff. This can range from a fire blaster to a freeze blast to a ground quake and more. Some underground areas will also provide for you to upgrade your magic capacity, and magic can be replenished by acquiring colored gems that typically hang from these small trees or occasionally from an enemy drop. Interestingly, the C-Stick actually opens up a menu categorized into 3 sections: your items, your staff's magic abilities, and Tricky's commands, and you can assign any of these as a quick select action with the Y button. Speaking of Tricky, he will be your sidekick at a later point in the game and will work alongside Fox in helping on your journey. Tricky can reveal secrets by digging through the ground, staying in place to hold down switches, and burn down objects, just to name a few. You can even play catch with him, which will change the color of his skin over time and actually decreases the amount of stamina he requires to pull off actions. One of the items you will collect are grub tubs, which are required to replenish Tricky's stamina when utilizing one of his actions. Tricky will even state he is hungry when he's down to one grub tub left on the heads-up display. Thankfully, Tricky's AI is actually quite good for the most part and never becomes a nuisance to have him tagging along. As you explore, Fox will be collecting a variety of items, with several being highlighted on the bottom right of the HUD. One of the items are scarabs, which are the game's currency to purchase items from the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper in Thorntail Hollow has various items to assist with Fox's quest, like maps for all the locations you'll go to, consumable items, and various key items needed. What's interesting is that you can actually bargain with the shopkeeper when he shows you the price. Sometimes he's a bit more flexible on the price, while other times, not so much.
Yeah, I don't need business from cheapskates. Get out!
Additionally, there are wells hidden throughout the world where you can buy cheat tokens. These will unlock various things like a sound test to messages about characters within the game. Another aspect about the heads-up display that I want to highlight is the PDA on the bottom left. When buying a map for the area you're exploring, you can easily zoom in and out of the map with the D-pad, and easily highlights where you are in real time. Additionally, you can cycle between screens by having either a fuel cell compass if there is any nearby, as well as a scanner that tells you what objects, items, or enemies are nearby with a brief description. This is especially handy if you feel like you're stumped on a section, as it may give you a hint of something of importance nearby. Also, you can utilize your friends as resources in the pause menu. General Pepper will show you your completion percentage as well as key items missing. Peppy will show you which location you should be going to next, and Slippy will actually give you hints as to what you should be doing. Another detail I want to highlight is that I love when you load your save file, the game highlights the last few things you've accomplished. This is such a great level of detail, especially if you've taken a break from the game for a while and forgot what exactly you left off doing. Now, in between going to parts of Dinosaur Planet that have been detached from the planet itself and suspended in space, you will need to use the R-Wing to get to them. You will need to acquire a certain number of fuel cells within the areas you're exploring to be able to access these locations once they become available to reach. The R-Wing segments are short and mainly consist of trying to get X number of gold rings to bring the force field of that area down so that you can actually land there. Failing to do so will just have you trying again. The controls here feel just as tight as they did in Star Fox 64, with the A button firing your lasers, B button firing bombs, the X and Y buttons allowing for brakes and boost respectively, and of course, the L and R triggers will let you do a barrel roll. What I loved was that it utilized the triggers properly, where pressing down gradually tilts the R-Wing 90 degrees to clear those narrow pathways, while pressing it down till it clicks initiates the barrel roll. These segments all have different levels that you'll be tackling depending on the land you're traveling to, and naturally gets more challenging as you progress. You can replenish health with both silver rings and gold rings, and bombs are acquired within shooting these boxes, just like they were in Star Fox 64. You can even pick up laser upgrades in the levels, but only last for that particular run. Additionally, as you destroy enemies and objects, you will get points, and the end of your run will log your score and show the top scores for this level across all 3 save files. You can replay these missions as often as you'd like as well. Additionally, Star Fox Adventures does have minigames to change up the exploration bits, whether it be the speeder bike sections, rapidly button pressing for tests of strength, or on-rail shooter segments to name just a few. You will also tackle bosses, and while there aren't too many of these in the game, each one does offer a unique experience. Now, I've said this already several times, but the game is very akin to Zelda, so there will be a lot of puzzles you'll be solving in the levels as well, whether in the actual environments or in temples that you'll be accessing as well. The puzzles here usually do a pretty good job of giving you an idea of what you need to do, but some of them will be challenging and have you actually exploring the environment a little bit further. There really wasn't any puzzle that comes to mind that made me just sit there scratching my head, but it was just the right level of challenge where you don't actually get bogged down with the pacing. Now, as much as Star Fox Adventures does so much right, it does have a few issues that I need to mention. First off is the lack of proper camera control. While the camera here is excellent, you can tell it was originally designed as an N64 game in mind, since the C-stick is utilized for menu item selections. And while the camera as stated is great, the environments are just ripe for wanting to see every nook and cranny. The next issue is that as much as I enjoy the R-Wing segments here, it could get a bit repetitive if you just keep going back and forth to the other locales that require flying there. Another gripe resides with the moment before the final boss that actually feels like a cop-out moment for a particular enemy. Now, I do love the final boss that is here, do not get me wrong. I know that many complain about this aspect, and I'm in the camp that still thinks what's here is awesome. But prior to this fight, should have been another fight that would have made the build-up a bit more intense, and feels like they ran out of development time for this particular part. I won't say what it is exactly to avoid spoilers if you haven't played it yet, but if you know, you know. Another aspect are that the cutscenes are not skippable. Now, for the first playthrough, that's perfectly fine, but for a repeat playthrough, or if you fail a sequence and have to repeat it, you're forced to keep rewatching the scenes again. The last gripe is that I wish we could have gotten to play as Crystal a little bit more, as she is a great addition to the Star Fox lore. Other than these aspects, Star Fox Adventure does far more right than wrong, and realistically, several of these are more just nitpicky than the legitimate issues with the overall game. As you've seen throughout the review, graphically, Star Fox Adventures is an absolute visual delight. The game is immensely rich in detail with top-notch texture work, art direction, and animations. Furthermore, Rare found ways to showcase the GameCube hardware in a way that many other developers at the time hadn't known could be done, other than Nintendo themselves and Capcom with their Resident Evil remake. Yes, by this time we already had amazing looking GameCube games, but Star Fox Adventures has levels of detail that over 20 years later truly rival current gen games. Fox McCloud is the best we've ever seen him, with so much fine detail. You can see every strand of fur on him, combined with excellent facial animation, and it still awes me all these years later. All the NPCs also receive treatment that's equivalent to Fox, and really is beyond impressive to see it in action. The R-Wing looks superb as well, and animates as you'd expect coming from Star Fox 64 and moving its way up to the follow-up console. The environment also steals the show here, with some of the nicest looking water for a console, as well as excellent world design that is a delight to explore thoroughly. There's even weather effects that look jaw-dropping, specifically outside of Krazoa Palace, and the game does have a day and night cycle. Even fine details like when Fox or Crystal acquire a Krazoa spirit and their eyes emanate the purple glow of that spirit until you release it really is stunning to see. There were times I forgot I was playing a GameCube game, but rather something on the Switch, a console multiple generations after this game. The crazy part, the game runs at 60 frames per second while having 0 loading times. You know, the thing Microsoft and Sony touted about with their current gen consoles that still seem to have loading times. Seriously, Star Fox Adventures is among one of the best looking GameCube games out there, bar none. In terms of audio, Star Fox Adventures provides for an immersive experience. The soundtrack here matches the various locations and settings, whether exploring the whimsical Thorntail Hollow or Cape Claw, the mysterious Moon Pass, the Volcano Point Temple, the ominous Krazoa Palace, to more intense tracks whether being in combat or facing a boss or something dire that's currently going on, to even a remix of the asteroid theme when piloting the R-Wing. Everything here just jives well with the overall experience. Sound effects also do a great job, whether you're using the staff in action, hearing the ambiance within the lands, and hearing the engine of the R-Wing firing up just before jumping on. Additionally, the voice acting here is very well done, with Steve Malpass taking the role of Fox as opposed to Mike West from Star Fox 64, and does a great job sounding the part. Various other characters are well voiced, and honestly they all just do an admirable job that just lends to the overall storytelling. Star Fox Adventures is a game that had a divisive fan base back when it launched, primarily because it wasn't a traditional Star Fox game. However, what we got was something that I always thought was an awesome game back when I first got it in 2002, and over 20 years later, it still amazes me to see it in action. Thankfully, the game is just as engaging to play as it is to see. If you're a fan of action-adventure games, and more so fans of Zelda-style games, Star Fox Adventures is an excellent game that is among the best exclusives available for the GameCube. It's an absolute crime that Rare was bought by Microsoft days after this game's release, because if this was what the team could do with the GameCube as their first and only effort, Lord knows what they would have been able to do over time with the console. Star Fox Adventures is an absolute essential and one that should be in every GameCube owner's library.